Good morning, everyone. Hope you are doing great today. Today's lecture is going to focus on the founding of Georgia, as is illustrated in the Georgia Performance Standards SS8H1, discussing the exploration and settlement of the English colonies, and in particular, the colony of Georgia. Beginning in the 17th century, many European countries began to explore the possibility of establishing a colony between Spanish-controlled Florida and the English-controlled Carolinas. Spain was in this region towards the middle of the 17th century until 1686 in an area that they referred to as Gaul. England first claimed Georgia in 1663, but it was not until 1717 that the English made plans to settle there. Sir Robert Montgomery, a nobleman from Scotland, proposed the creation of a new colony in America that he referred to as the Margravate of Azelia. His dream was to create a colony that would produce silk, wine, and other products for England. In essence, he wanted to set up a system of mercantilism between the English colony of what would become Georgia and England. This colony would also be a buffer to protect South Carolina from Spanish-controlled Florida, the French, who were out along the Mississippi River area, and the Native Americans, who were attacking colonists just about everywhere. He was unable to raise the money, and ultimately, the adventure died. John Barnwell, a Carolina trapper and Indian fighter, called on England to build a series of forts and what would later become Georgia. The first of these forts, Fort King George, failed due to sickness and inclement weather conditions. Lastly, Jean-Pierre Pury of Switzerland proposed a colony in America named Georgia in honor of the British king. His plan failed, but the name would be adopted by another British nobleman and Georgia's founder, James Edward Oglethorpe. James Edward Oglethorpe was born in London in 1696. He was the youngest member of a very influential English family, and he was both well educated and wealthy. His father was heavily involved in British politics, and being the last of 10 children born to Eleanor Oglethorpe, James proved to be the most famous member of the Oglethorpe family. They were from Surrey County, England. Oglethorpe became a member of England's House of Commons in 1722 at the age of 25, where he learned of many problems facing his country. He was a staunch advocate of prison reform, and he also worked to get people with unpaid debts out of Britain's overcrowded prisons. Overall, he was very interested in helping English citizens overcome the problems that plagued England during this time. Among the problems that were plaguing England at this time were increased population that caused many other problems. To name a few of the problems: unemployment. There were far more people than there was jobs. British citizens were unable to pay their debts. Those who couldn't pay their debts were thrown into debtor's prison. Therefore, the prisons were becoming overcrowded, and the prisons were not very well kept up, so smallpox epidemics often broke out. Alcoholism, drug abuse, suicides, large numbers of homeless citizens were all things that took place in England at this time. Disease epidemics within the populace, smallpox, bubonic plague, etc., population control, large numbers of unwanted children, poverty, food shortages, and the economic system of have and have-nots. So overall, I would say it's safe to argue that England at this time was not doing very well. Therefore, James Oglethorpe is going to propose an idea to King George with 21 financial backers who are going to want to establish this new colony. The motivating factors: the need for a new colony. Oglethorpe was moved by the hardships that he saw on the streets and in the prisons of Britain. Laws concerning debtors were strict and harsh, and those who could not pay went to jail. Among those jailed was Oglethorpe's friend, architect Robert Castile. Oglethorpe was on government committees studying prison reform when he learned that Castile had died of smallpox in a local prison. Oglethorpe was angry because he believed debtors should not have to go to jail. He felt, therefore, that his friend had died needlessly in a dirty prison. Stirred into action, Oglethorpe worked to get laws passed that both improved the conditions in prison and let thousands of prisoners get free. Oglethorpe met Lord John Percival, an influential member of Parliament who had served on the Jails Committee. They created a plan to propose the creation of a new colony to the king. This colony would be designed to help the poor people of England to start over fresh in the New World. The proposal to King George II. In the summer of 1730, Oglethorpe organized a group of 21 men known as the Trustees. They asked King George II for a tract of land on the southwest of Carolina for settling poor persons of London, to get the king to agree to allow the creation of a new colony that would provide England with certain goods and services. The new colony could defend the Carolinas from Spanish Florida, and it could also protect from the French who were pushing east from the Mississippi River, as was previously stated. The settlers of the new colony could make money for the English by trading with the Indians. Oglethorpe told the king that the colonists could produce silk, cotton, dyes, and wine, and they promised to send spices and semi-tropical fruit back to England. Also, Georgia would offer religious freedom to Protestants who were being mistreated by the Catholic Church in Europe. The colony would be named Georgia, of course, in honor of the king. And on June 7th, 1732, King George II granted a charter making Oglethorpe's group of 21 trustees responsible for establishing the colony of Georgia and managing it for 21 years. As you see here on the right, this is a picture of King George II, and this picture here illustrates Oglethorpe and the 21 trustees, Oglethorpe here, the 21 trustees, that would be responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the new colony. Lastly, Georgia, the dream of a utopian society. Catholics were excluded because of a long-standing division between the Catholic Church and the Church of England. Blacks were not admitted so as not to introduce slavery to the colony. The trustees feared settlers would not work if liquor was permitted. The trustees wanted colonists to settle their differences out of court and did not think lawyers would allow them to do this. And lastly, the Georgia colony would provide charity to the poor of England by allowing debtors to get a fresh start in the New World. That is the last of the slides for this section. I hope you have enjoyed the overall synopsis of the founding of Georgia, and I look forward to providing you with further information at a later date. Thank you.